In this lesson, we will look at angles on a. So yesterday we talked about how one right angle would equal 90 degrees. And so if we had two right angles, here's my second right angle, that would be another 90 degrees. And so when we add those two angles together, that would give us a total measure of 180 degrees. And so we can see that the line that is created, oops, let me grab this. I wanted to draw another line here first. There we go. The line that is created by those two angle measures is 180 degrees. So a straight line has an angle measure of 180 degrees because it is made up of two right. So we're going to apply that now to a couple of different learning points in this lesson. So the first is that we can use a protractor to show the sum of the angle measures on a line is 180 degrees. So first it starts off by telling us that QR is a line. So here's QR, it's a line. Notice that it has arrows on either end. That tells us that it goes on and on in both directions. So we also have two angles that are on that line. We have angle POQ, angle POQ, and we have angle POR, angle POR. So we can see how those two angles are on the line QR. So we can say that angle POQ and angle, or the measure of angle POQ and the measure of angle POR is 180 degrees because we know that that straight line is 180 degrees. So you may have noticed the little M in front of the angle name. That stands for the measure of. So we know that the measure of angle POQ is the same, and added to the measure of angle POR totals 180. Another learning target in this lesson is to understand that we can use reasoning to show the sum of the angle measures on a line is 180 degrees. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, so we know that line QR, or QR is a line. We also can see that we have some angles on that line. But before we look at that, we can see that ray OS is perpendicular to line QR. It's perpendicular. And we know that perpendicular lines meet and form right angles, and we know that right angles are 90 degrees. So because we have that background knowledge about what a perpendicular line is, we know that the measure of angle SOQ is 90 degrees, and we know that the measure of angle SOR is 90 degrees, simply because we understood what a perpendicular line is. So we can reason then that those two angles, when their measures are added together, they would have a total measure of 180 degrees. One of the final learning targets we have to look at before we put some of this into practice with each other is that we use the protractor to find the measures of angles. And so I wanted to model for you how we use a protractor in order to measure angles. Okay, so it's important that we know where the vertex is in the angle. So we're going to start by measuring angle POM. So here's angle POM, okay? And so step one, when you're using or when you're measuring a angle, is you want to take the vertex of the angle, remember that's where the two rays meet, and you want to line it up with the center point of the protractor. And then you're going to want to take one of the rays and line it up with the straight line on the protractor. So you can see how I have that perfectly lined up. Okay, so it's on the center point, and the measuring line on the protractor is lined up with one of the rays. Now, I'm going to look to see what scale the ray on the measuring line goes through. Does it go through 0 on the outer scale or the inner scale? And you might be able to see that 0, oops, if I move it around here, 0, it goes through on the outer scale. So I'm going to use the outer scale when measuring this angle. So my eye goes up until it reaches the other ray, and I can see it is right at 60 degrees. Then I want to ask myself, does that make sense with this angle? Is this angle an acute angle? Is it less than 90 degrees? The answer is yes. So 60 degrees would be the measure of angle POM. Let's look at another one. Let's next measure angle MON. So we've got angle MON. So again, I need to line the protractor up, that center point on the protractor with the vertex of the angle. And then I'm going to need to turn the protractor so that it lines up. Let's see if I can get this here. So that it lines up with the measuring line on the protractor and the line on, or the ray of the angle. Now we can look at the ray and see if it's passing through 0 on the inner scale or the outer scale. It's passing through 0 on the outer scale. So again, I'm going to use the outer scale to measure this angle. My eye travels up to the other angle, and I can see it crosses kind of right between 70 and 80. So it's right between 70 and 80, right in the middle. So that tells me that the measure of angle MON is going to be 75 degrees. Again, I want to ask myself now, does that make sense with this type of angle? Is this angle an acute angle? Is it less than 90 degrees? It is. I can see that, in fact, it does not reach 90 degrees. It's on the other side of it, and so I can tell that this angle is acute, so 75 degrees does make sense. Now that we've taken time to review those learning targets, let's put some of this to practice. So we know now that a straight line has a measure of 180 degrees. And we know that when we're given part of that angle measure, we can easily figure out the missing part. So we're going to work to find some unknown measures of angles when those angles are placed on a straight. So let's see how this works in finding the measure of an unknown angle. Let's see what we know first. We know that AC is a line. So this is a line, which we should know now, it needs to be part of our background knowledge, that has a measure of 180 degrees. We also know that we have one of the angle measures of 55, and the angle measure that's missing that we need to find is angle X. So we know then that the measure of angle X and the angle that measures 55 degrees has to be a total of 180 degrees. So our whole would be 180. The part we know is 55. The missing part is angle X. That's our question mark. So 180 minus 55 will give us our solution. And that missing part, or that missing angle, angle X, its measure would be 125 degrees. Okay, let's let you try this one. We have this figure, and what do we know? Well, we know that XY is a line. So XY is a line. So the measure of that angle, that straight angle, is 180 degrees. So we need to find the measure of angle Y. We're looking for this angle measure right there. So in this case, we have our hole. Sorry if you can hear my dog in the background. I don't know what he's doing. Okay, our hole is 180, right? The straight angle is 180. Now we know two parts. We know 47 degrees is one angle that makes up the 180 degrees. And we know the other part is 65 degrees. That other angle makes up the other part. The missing part, or angle Y, that would be our question mark. That's the part we're looking for. So pause the video, see how you would solve to find the missing angle of. Okay, so did you first add together the two angles we did know, 47 plus 65? Maybe you did. In either case, we know that to find the missing angle, we're going to need to take the total and subtract 47 and then subtract 65. And in doing so, the missing angle, angle Y, would be 68 degrees. Let's try one last one together. It says, in each figure, AB is a line. Find the unknown angle measures. Pause the video, think about what you know, how you can use what you know to help you find that missing angle of X. Okay, we know that the whole straight angle was 180 degrees. The two parts that we knew were one angle was 36 degrees, one angle was 98 degrees, and the missing part was our angle X. That is our question mark. That's what we're trying to solve. So in my mind, adding 98 and 36 together to get this total angle gives us 134. So 180 minus 134 should give us this missing angle part. So if we subtract, we get 46. So angle X would have a measure of 46.